When most people open the New Testament, they start with Matthew. But what if I told you Matthew is not trying to tell you the story of Jesus first? That's right, he's trying to tell you the story of Israel and to convince you that Jesus redefines it. Matthew is less a biography and more a theological argument, carefully constructed, deeply Jewish, and surprisingly bold. So what is the world behind Matthew? Well, Matthew is written to a community of Jewish followers of Jesus living after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. The temple is gone. The question tearing Judaism apart now is simple but explosive. Who truly represents Israel now? Pharisaic Judaism is reorganizing around Torah and synagogue, and Matthew's community claims something radical. Jesus is not abandoning Israel's story. No, he is bringing it to its climax. And that tensions, you see, explain almost everything in the gospel. That's why here are 3 insights of this gospel. First, Matthew is the most structured gospel. It's on purpose. That is, Matthew is not a loose collection of Jesus' stories. No. It is one of the most carefully designed books in the whole New Testament. At the center of the gospel are 5 major teaching blocks, each ending with a formula like, when Jesus had finished saying these things, and many scholars see this as intentional. There's echoing the 5 books of Moses. Let me know in the comments if you have ever noticed this before. So Matthew is quietly presenting Jesus as a new Moses, a new lawgiver, a new authoritative interpreter of Torah, and this is why Matthew makes the point to say that Jesus does not abolish the law. He fulfills it. Here's insight number 2. The phrase, this happened to fulfill what was spoken, or similar variations like, all this happened to fulfill such and such, is a key phrase in Matthew, particularly around Jesus' birth. But please, careful here, Matthew is not saying, here's a prediction, and now it came true. No, he's not concerned about that. He's doing something more Jewish and more subtle. Matthew rereads Israel's scriptures as a story pattern, not a checklist of predictions. Why? Because Jesus relives Israel's stories. He comes out of Egypt, he passes through water, he is tested in the wilderness, he goes up a mountain to teach. Jesus is Israel. He is faithful where Israel failed. And this is why Matthew's use of the Old Testament still surprises modern readers. And here's insight number 3. The harshest words in Matthew target religious leaders. That's right, Matthew contains some of Jesus' strongest language, especially against the scribes and Pharisees. But you see, this is not anti-Jewish rhetoric. No, it's an internal Jewish debate about authority, about interpretation, about faithfulness, because Matthew is warning his own community. Right doctrine is not enough. Religious status is not security. Fruit matters more than claims. In Matthew, judgment begins inside the house of God. And why Matthew still matters today? Well, Matthew challenges a shallow Christianity. It refuses faith without obedience. It refuses theology without practice. It refuses identity without transformation. So this gospel insists that following Jesus means rethinking authority, living the Sermon on the Mountain, embodying the kingdom now, not later. Matthew doesn't let Jesus be merely admired. No, he demands to be obeyed. And here's the closing line. Matthew opens the New Testament by asking a very dangerous question. If Jesus truly fulfills Israel's story, okay, what does that require of us? Well, it requires more than belief. It calls for allegiance that reshapes how we live, how we obey, how we love, even when it causes us some comfort and status. If Jesus fulfills Israel's story, then faith means stepping into that story ourselves, not as spectators, but as transformed participants. And in the next gospel, the Gospel of Mark, the focus shifts from fulfillment and teaching to urgency, suffering, and a Messiah who keeps shocking everyone. I'll see you there.